The late Milton Friedman is arguably the high priest of laissez-faire or neoliberal economics. In the latter half of the 20th century, Friedman's influence has been massive among central bankers and policymakers, as well as in business schools and the business press. This is particularly true in the US, whose large global technology firms dominate stock markets and suck in capital from around the world. My own library of audiobooks contains two of his titles. First, Capitalism and Freedom. 40th Anniversary Edition. This statement by the publisher says it all. In this classic book, Milton Friedman provides the definitive statement of his immensely influential economic philosophy, one in which competition and capitalism serve as devices for achieving economic freedom and as a necessary precondition for democratic freedom. For his second book, Why Government is the Problem, Friedman himself writes, "The major social problems of the United States, deteriorating education, lawlessness and crime, homelessness, the collapse of family values, the crisis in medical care, have been produced by well-intended actions of government. That is easy to document. The difficult task is understanding the reason why." Today, neoclassical economists like Friedman have managed to convince central banks, finance departments in Western governments, and most importantly, business schools, that economics is a science and that neoclassical economists are its only practitioners. The result is economics as ideology. This presents a challenge to anyone wishing to work in industry or government in a management role. Whether your chosen field is public administration, management, accounting, law, or business administration, you'll need to subscribe to neoclassical ideology if you want to get ahead in your field. Failure to do so will almost certainly result in excommunication or career stagnation at the very least. The fact is that free trade, free markets, and unbridled competition don't exist and never have. Successful businessmen like legendary investor Warren Buffett build economic moats around their businesses to protect them from competition. Successful empires like the US and the British before them did the same. Free trade, competition, and free markets are what the rest of us, individuals, businesses, and nations, are left with in an unequal struggle against the powerful. While economic freedom is a laudable goal, it's hard to achieve for most of the population when faced with the levels of inequality that exist in the US. In the US, healthcare is excellent, if you can afford it. However, life expectancy in the US is lower than in any of the other G7 countries. According to Oxford University's Our World in Data, there's significantly greater income inequality in the US than in all the other G7 countries. The Americans have much more in common with countries under authoritarian rule. Russia and India, which is arguably democratic, exceed all countries in the European Union, as does China, in terms of income inequality. What's more, all countries seem to be getting more unequal over time. But in the G7 and the rest of Europe, that tendency isn't as pronounced. When we examine Oxford University's Our World in Data and look at income inequality, it's clear that somehow the richest 1% of the population is gaining wealth at the expense of the rest of us. But this is even more pronounced in the Russian kleptocracy, and whatever it is that China has evolved into. It's certainly not capitalism per se that is the primary cause. It appears more like hierarchies and influences, or simply influence peddling, that are behind the concentration of wealth.